Hey, what's going on, guys? We're going to be doing a very quick top-down review on the weekly, okay, all the way down to the 1 hour. And the point of this video is for you guys to understand how to determine higher time frame bias. Okay, so we're starting on the weekly candle here on NQ. We'll go over ES a little bit as well. Hopefully, it's a pretty short video, and hope you learned something. Press the like button. I appreciate you pressing it. Great person. Also, press the subscription button as well, so you don't miss a single one of these videos. And press the notification bell so you get notified about every single one of them. Thank you guys for watching so far. And also, there's a free Discord below as well if you want to join as well. On the weekly candle, we expanded above this previous week's high and the all-time highs that we formed on the week of November 11th. That took out this high as well. So we took out this high and we have gone higher, expanding and closing above it. So what does this tell me for the next couple of weeks? If the next weekly candle is not an expansive downwards below this all-time high and closing back inside the range, basically mohawking over this all-time high, then I'm going to anticipate price to go higher. Now, if you put a gun to my head, I would say we're probably going to continue to expand. I mean, look at ES. It has just gone so much higher compared to NQ, right? And so I am, pretty confident that price would continue to expand. We're also in an election year. Where the president is going to want to end off the year bullish, right? Because it's going to want to say that, I did this for the U.S. economy, whatnot, right? And they don't want to end with a down market. So typically you can see the market's manipulated to just continue to rise higher and higher in the election year, right? So plus we closed above this previous week. We closed above this weekly SIBI over here and closed above this all-time high. We closed above this all-time high as well. So, we're obviously showing bullish price action. Now on the daily on NQ, from Monday, we closed above this daily FEG, making it an inverted fair value gap that we didn't even return to, right? We actually formed a bullish fair value gap and just continue to expand all week, right? And taking out this all-time high as well. And, it's pretty obvious to see that because ES had already been doing that. So NQ has been playing catch up and being a sixth sister compared to ES. And so not surprised to see price just continuing to rise. We did have a small pullback, right? We had 1, 2, 3, 4 bullish candles. At some point, you're going to see a down close candle, and that happened on Thursday, but then we continued higher. Okay. By the way, we did dip back into this particular daily fair value gap on Friday, shallowly, but then continuing to rise higher to end the week bullish. One thing I also want to note is that this week we did not see a return back to the TGIF range, which is basically we did not see a closure in the TGIF range, right? Or even a return back to it, which is basically the 20 to 30% range of the candle. That typically will happen on a Friday. That's why it's called TGIF, because thank God it's Friday. It's an ICT, thing that he implemented. And so basically on that Friday, you should see it return back to 20, 30% of the range, typically in the PM or maybe first thing in the AM, and then consolidate for the rest of the day. Because we're in an election year and because of all things I mentioned, like price didn't do that. We just continue to expand higher. Okay. And how could you trade this? Yes, maybe you may have a bias that will eventually pull back at some point. But if you see we just continue to make all-time highs and you see that the candles are not really showing a willingness to come back lower, then especially on a Friday PM after we've moved so much throughout the week, you can anticipate price to pretty just fall, just chop around for the rest of the day. And if it doesn't get filled on Friday, like what I would like to see it filled today, it can get filled on the next Monday, right? So I will be anticipating that next Monday. That would be my bias. On the daily, we just went over that. And on the 4 hour, what do we have? So starting this Monday, expanded above the daily fair value gap SIBI, closed above the previous week high as well, forming a 4-hour fair value gap. And then going into Monday PM after having an expansive AM and overnight Sunday Asian to London, you can see we did not expand. which would allow us to continue to expand in the AM, right? So if you are a scalper, intraday trader, it's very important for you to understand when we're going to have expansive markets or not. Now, if you're a scalper, maybe that's not super important to you because you're maybe catching like 1-to-1s, 1-to-2s, but I'm a person who likes to get expansion trades. I like to get 1-to-3s. So it's best for me to trade in conditions where I anticipate to expand. And that's, an AM session is anticipated to expand typically when you have a choppy overnight. So, we had a choppy overnight, expanded in the AM, and then that is when you know that the PM is typically also going to be not expansive, especially when we've reached a higher time frame PRA. So look at this 4-hour SIBI right here, all the way here from the left. This 4-hour SIBI from November 11th, that price returned back to today on December 2nd and hit the constant encroachment and then just basically fell off on price action for the rest of the day. And then overnight, we basically consolidated until Tuesday AM. And when news came out, price started expanding. All right, and we hit this this all-time high. And you can see that this was a pretty expansive PM session candle, right? This is 2 p.m. onwards. We had an expansive 2 p.m. candle, and that's because we had a pretty consolidated AM, right? Like this AM candle did not expand that much, right? And overnight, we did not expand. So sometime in the session in the day, we're going to have an expansion, and that was here at 2 p.m. And I just want to see if there was some news on Tuesday that made that happen. So on Tuesday, yeah, honestly, there was 10 a.m. news, so we should have expanded in the morning, but looks like we had a pretty choppy morning, but facing some resistance here at this 4-hour for value gap. So we tapped it and then came back lower. A lot of times, if you see a break of market structure on a lower time frame, once you hit a 4-hour PDRA, you can trust that it is reversing, because think about it. A lot of times you're going to see high resistance coming into these very strong higher time frame PDRAs, even on a lower time frame. If you see a 1-minute fair value gap in your way, typically the candle will reject from it before it continues to go through it. And so, think about that on a higher time frame, what that means for lower time frame, right? So on a 4-hour, if I'm expecting to reject from it, I can get a short-term scalp on a 1-minute. Even though I'm bullish, I can anticipate that maybe we'll have a bit of a bearish reaction off of this very strong PDRA. So it closes back in below it, but then the next candle expands through it in the PM after having a pretty short AM session. And then overnight, we consolidate. London, we did have a pretty decent move on Wednesday. And so you can see in the AM, we had a pretty decent move on London in Wednesday, continued to go higher and closing above this all-time high. But then the AM session here was pretty choppy. It did expand at the or the pre-market to AM, beginning of the AM was pretty choppy, but then the later half going into 10 a.m. towards 2 p.m. we did have an expansion, and then pretty good movement on a Wednesday PM after a late AM push as well, continuing higher. And then we fall off in terms of volatility all the way here until about AM session of Thursday, where we make a short-term high wicking above the previous day high from Wednesday, and then coming back into the range, and then consolidating. Well, we did have a pretty choppy AM here, kind of not too much of a voluminous candle. So we see an expansion here in the PM, taking out the previous day low at that point. Or no, we did not take out the previous day. This is the Thursday low. So this candle is the previous day high for Friday. So basically Thursday's high, Thursday's low, and you can see Friday after kind of consolidating all night in the AM session, we did see an expansion, taking out Thursday's high, closing above it, and then going into the later half of AM into lunch, we had another expansion higher, leading to a pretty consolidated PM session. So finally, on the 1-hour, just briefly go over it. Consolidate Sunday Asian going into Monday London, expanded above the daily CIVI and previous week high on the 1-hour, touching that 4-hour value gap by about 12 noon, consolidating all the way until about 12 p.m. the next day, Tuesday. Expand higher, closing above it, finally taking out the all-time high by about Tuesday p.m. Consolidate around that all-time high until we use it as support to run higher. Continue to respect bullish PDRAs until about Wednesday p.m. And then we fall off again on liquidity, taking out the Wednesday high here at Thursday, 12 p.m. Okay, forming a very large bearish order block here, closing below this low from 11 a.m. during the 12 to 1 p.m. lunch hour, then expand lower, but then wick into what I'm sure is a 4-hour value at that point. Or actually, there's a bullish order block here on the 1 hour that we wick into, and then continue to consolidate overnight, take out this Asian low here from Thursday, going into the Friday pre-market AM session. And then we had NFP news, 8:30. We took out that low, but then did not take out this low. And we actually had SMT with ES, right below this low. We had SMT with ES. And that would promote higher prices, right? And so price expanded higher above this previous day high, formed a 1 hour massive fair value gap, dipped into it, and then rejected and went higher, forming the high of the day by about the lunch hour of Friday, and then falling off in precision then. And so when you see us expanding like this, especially going into the lunch, the PM session is going to be trash. And that's why we did not get a pullback into the TGIF range. So we're going to consolidate for a while until Monday, where maybe we'll get a return back into the TGIF and into this 4-hour fair value gap as well. So that has been the weekly review for the week of December 8th. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.